Okay, we're in the next part now, right? Please go check out the previous part in order to gauge your bearings that you might be edified appropriately as to what in the world I spoke earlier. The Lord told me it's time for Africa. I was like, Father, ne? Like, if I'm going to be focusing on the South African conglomerate now, because I can fight them and we're in the country and likely praying with one another, how in the world am I going to, like, even succeed to get that done, right? And the Lord was like, it's basic, Karabo. Just do what you do and trust that your content will just like get taken up. Whatever darkness is in your land, essentially, the Lord has told me that He has judged the US as a conglomerate. He has, however, favored the Christians in there and He's protecting them. But everybody else is pretty much reprobate. And their collective sorcery that is slapping everybody else across the nations, He is going to shield everybody else from them. And that it was folly for me to think that I need to run away from my country, because essentially what I'm doing is making like Jonah running away to Tarshish or something. I cannot leave my country because they're Nineveh. And better the devil, basically, that I know than the one that I don't know. In this land, I've been making war successfully with the entities over it. I thought South Africa was evil, and I thought the South African church was lackluster, lukewarm, and frankly not serious. But it turns out that there is enough God flow in this land for the Lord to move on its behalf. It is not entirely handed over, and it is not entirely satanized, because Christian prayer is somehow working. Meaning, Karabo, that even if you're in isolation in your country that is South Africa, you are still generally ubiquitously being covered by the prayers of my saints on the ground in your land. Meaning that no random lackluster witchcraft that is cast on your channel by some silly little lay witch Eddie Kloof is going to succeed to mock you for any period of time, because there are enough Christians covering each other in your land, including yourself. You were being subjugated to the tyranny of the darkness of a person in a kingdom or a nation that is currently so like rebellious against God that literally the Lord is focusing on just taking His kids. It's become like Gomorrah, Sodom, the United States. He's taking His children and ensconcing them and saying everybody else whatever. But that is not so much the case with Africa, South Africa, whatever other countries it is that are all over the show. You prematurely wrote people off because of your immediate environment experiences with your family members. And I was like, okay, God, then if South Africa is the flag that we are out here in these streets waving again, if I'm back to Abantu Baminaisa, prove it. Show me that I need to be catering to a South African audience. It is the reason why recently I've been doing a whole bunch of videos in nothing but Tswana, or just Tswana and Zulu, or the majority of the video is in vernacular. It's because I am now trusting that I can go back to my default setting, the comfort zone that I am in when I am Karabo, because it'll get taken up due to TikTok. The Lord used TikTok. I uploaded my longer form content on TikTok. TikTok accommodates 10 minutes maximum. I can talk forever and a day. That's why these days I stop recording at 10 minutes. Stop recording. It's because I'm trying to get my long form content on YouTube that is sitting there gathering dust on TikTok. And lo and behold, people are listening to part 1 to 7, part 1 to 10, part 1 to 28, part 1 to 14. They are listening to all of my parts. I've been ignoring my notifications on TikTok because I don't want to encounter a mean comment. And God said, you're ignoring Banababatu. I was like, I'm ignoring them? But God, what if there's a mean comment? And God was like, you're ignoring them. Essentially, He's telling me, stop being trepidatious to approach your comment section. You're not in the US anymore, baby. You are in Africa. Kune decorum, kune self-control when it comes to this speech. The Lord is upset with the US, and the US must just repent. And this dude, the only reason why he was able to afflict me with so much darkness, Ali one, is because the entities that operate over the geographical location that he is in, the US, are so powerful to afflict world citizens, to infiltrate and influence world citizens, that he was pushed along by the general climate of sorcery in the US, which I thought was lesser than the general climate of sorcery in Africa. You would imagine that a poor nation where people practice lackluster witchcraft is more involved in darkness. We all know how Haiti is so incredibly hard knock with sorcery. We also know how many African countries, they just practice, they dabble, they practice, they dabble. There's lots of corruption in governments in Africa. Lots of, basically all these things are obviously judgments from God. And you would think that it is because Africans are super hard knock with witchcraft and they're really good at it. But the Lord showed me the way that you know a nation is super good with witchcraft is not so much the height of poverty in that country, but rather the height of prosperity of evil men and evil women. When they succeed, they're the chosen ones of Satan. The devil can, have you ever wondered why it is that my witch doctors, some of them are poor, they are struggling to make ends meet. They are charging 5 rand for bring back lost lover. Why is it that when they trust upon this like supernatural force, are they not wealthy? And yet there are people who also tap into dark magic that skyrocket and become billionaires, skyrocketed and become millionaires, become prolific artists in the entertainment industry. Just in the same way that the Lord chooses whom he will redeem. Just in the same way that the Lord chooses whom he will draw to Christ. Just in the same way that Jesus chooses, many are called but few are chosen. In the same way that God chooses, the devil also chooses. And the Lord has flat out told me that the devil has chosen the United States. He has chosen it, in other words, to enrich its citizens. Because in order for people to gain wealth that does not belong to them, they have to steal it from somewhere. So the devil has stolen from Africa. The devil has stolen from mostly Africa, frankly, many parts of the world, but South America, and given the wealth of South Americans, Africans, and other poor parts of the world to America. He has done wealth transfers from continents that are impoverished and sent the money over to the US. And the reason he has chosen them is because he is smart, he is intelligent, and he knows the level of influence that the world's superpower that initially started out very favored by God has over the world. The United States became the pinnacle of society, #1, top notch. And this is because they loved God. But then afterwards, they turned their hearts away from God. And because it was a country sitting perched on a mountaintop like a bird, its pomp and its arrogance in turning from God now that they had much, caused the devil to realize the value proposition in making this country turn away when everybody's looking at them. You've become the popular girl in school, and so now everybody wants to be like you. So I'm going to make you stop being godly. I am going to make you walk away from true biblical Christianity, and I am going to infiltrate the nations through you with all different kinds of compromises on sexuality. I am going to water down everybody else. Like, Bati, in South Africa, there is a saying, "Asimo stay zimo." It's basically when people want to act like they're American, because Americans have inherited much of their culture. They are the world superpower for that reason. But there was a time when it was okay to inherit American culture because they were the land of the free. They were godly. But now they're ungodly, but people have not stopped following them because they're ungodly. They are literally mirroring the US. Satan is smart. Let's move on to the next.